So today on BK Sport, we are back for episode number 6 reaction of The Last Dance. If you don't know what this is about, well then you should probably watch my part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Yeah, you probably should have watched those ones too. The Last Dance is a Netflix documentary series that revolves around the Chicago Bulls, the 97-98, well, basically the 20 years from the 80s and 90s in which Michael Jordan was a part of the team. It's marketed as a 97-98 documentary, but in reality, it's not necessarily a 97-98 documentary. It's about everything in the Bulls' kind of history when they had Michael Jordan there, the growth of the team, how they got to 97-98, kind of the difficulties that they faced throughout their championship winning era, because that is their championship winning era, because the Chicago Bulls nowadays are shocking. They're shocking. So if you haven't seen my first 5 reactions to this, then you probably should go back and check that out first. But let's get into discussing episode number 6 of The Last Dance. We opened up with a camera shot of Michael basically having to repeat the same thing over and over again in a different way, because obviously when you're doing medium, when you're in front of camera, not everything goes right the first time. Like, you have no idea. When I'm even filming this by myself, I want to get it right. So sometimes when you're talking in front of a camera, you know, there's just things that go wrong, so you have to re-film it quickly, or if it's just not right, you just want to get it right and you want to film it again. So that's on a personal level. That's on when I run this channel. I run BK Sport. I do all the filming and the editing and the thoughts and the creative parts. That's all me. Now when you're being interviewed by somebody else, that's got nothing to do with you, right? So they want what they want. They need what they need. They want to make sure that they get that mistake and put it on their path. You don't have a choice in that. So with Michael, he was obviously giving them what they wanted, but not exactly what they wanted. So I feel like they were just trying to get him to word it differently or word it better without telling him exactly how to word it. And that happens a lot with filming and the media, and it does get frustrating. It does get annoying. But it is what it is, and it comes with the job, and that's exactly why, you know, when he says that people want to be like Jordan, be like Mike, but in reality you don't really want to be like Mike. And there's parts of Michael that I would love to be a part of. There's parts of Michael that I would love to achieve. However, I understand what he's saying in regards to that he was over the spotlight, basically. He said basically that he loved the spotlight, but now it's become too big, really, into he can't even leave his hotel room. In that regard, I wouldn't want to be like Mike, because that's absolutely unrealistic in regards to having a happy life and leading a very happy mental health life. There needs to be some downtime, and although you're Michael Jordan and your name is represented as one of the best basketball players of all time, and back then definitely it was the best player of all time, it's something from my own perspective that I can somewhat relate. Obviously not anywhere near the same level as Mike, but I'm very small time, but I still do have fans that come up to me at games. I do still have fans that I see in the street, and I really do appreciate that. However, what you're going to understand with people who are content creators and people who are celebrities and sports stars is that you know them, you watch their stuff. Say you watch Michael Jordan playing basketball, you know that, you know everything about him really. And then for example, you've got me, who you should be watching frequently. If you're not, subscribe. But you see me very frequently, so you feel like you know me, and you probably do. You probably know, well, quite a decent amount of me. Obviously you don't see everything. So when you see me in public, it's a very individual perspective, all right? So you kind of not assume, but it's just a normal thing where you automatically assume it's like a friendship, and it is, but it's not in the same sense. Like, because I don't know you specifically. I know you as a fan, or I know you as a person who watches my content, but I don't know you specifically. And that happens quite a bit, where I have someone talking to me as if like I'm meant to know the other end of what's going on. And with that, like I said, very individual perspective. So in regards to Michael, I've only got 5,000 subscribers. In regards to Michael, he has the entire world fascinated with him. He has the entire world really, you know, chomping at the bit for more of Michael Jordan. And everyone thinks they know him individually. Majority of people emotionally feel like they're connected, like they're friends, even though you're not really. You just know them and love them for what they do. So it definitely shows the pros and cons of being successful, being in the limelight, being in the spotlight, and being the best at what you do. It's something that everyone wants to achieve. Everyone wants to achieve that peak of success where people do love you for what you do on a worldwide scale. However, it does show the cons of when you do get to that peak spotlight, you can't even go to the shops. You can't even walk down the road. You can't do anything in public without the spotlight being on you. So that was very interesting, pros and cons, and I somewhat could relate to it. Somewhat. Very, very, very somewhat. Next, it went over the gambling issues of Michael Jordan, and I can relate quite a lot to this episode because Michael Jordan had a gambling problem, and I know he said that he doesn't have a gambling problem, it's more of a hobby, and you've got to look at it perspective-wise in regards to money. And a lot of people don't realise that, they said it in the, they did say it in the episode as well, that $10,000 to him is like $10 to the average person in society. So it was very perspective-based. However, what I will argue on that is that if you're having to make repayments to your friends, or like for example the $57,000 that they brought up, if you're having to make repayments, then you don't necessarily have the money to give if you're making repayments. If you have the money to give, you're just going to give it straight away, right? But if you're making repayments, it means that you've done a little bit more than you probably should have, than you probably hoped for, and you need time to pay it back. And that's fine if you know you can pay it back over time, but it is still a problem. It is still an issue because if you're starting there is open opportunities, endless opportunities to go down a really dark path. And I know about that. I've had a gambling addiction before. I arguably still do. But what I noticed about Michael is that it wasn't about actually winning the money as such. It wasn't about the actual financial gain, because he had plenty of money. He has an incredible amount of money. However, it wasn't about the money for him. It was specifically about being better than his opponent and winning the money from his opponent. So taking their money and putting it in his own pocket. Whether he wanted that money or not, it's not the money he was after. It was about being better than the other person. And you can even tell with the small little coin game they played in the back room or one of the rooms of the United Center in Chicago. You could definitely see that he was really upset. He was really upset. When you're visibly and emotionally upset, then you've probably got a problem, because then you're really weighing in and you're really being emotionally affected by your decision. And look, I get it, it's a hobby, it's a hobby to me too, but there is still a point where it becomes a problem. If you don't lose your house or your car, or you sell off your your life savings, there's still a point where it does become a problem without getting to the deepest points of said problem. What confuses me, right, is that there's always one wanker. There's always just one wanker who wants to come out and create a negative story. And I get that for yourself and for your own benefit, it's great, you know. For example, Sam Smith, who created that book and talked about Michael Jordan's inside the locker room chat and how his teammates didn't like him and whatnot. And I feel like I've seen comments about what's about to happen in the next couple of episodes, but that is completely unnecessary to come out to the public and denigrate Michael Jordan when that's a team issue. And I get that they're blaming Horace Grant for it, whether it was Horace Grant or not, who came out and actually, you know, divulged the secrets of the locker room. I don't believe that should have come out. But the thing is that if someone's going to go to the media and they're going to say something like that, of course the media is going to put it out there for everyone to see. So it's the fault of the team member, whether it be Horace Grant or not. It's the fault of the team member, not the actual media. Now, Sam Smith, yes, he's a bit of a wanker, and I think he'd even admit to being a bit of a wanker, because apparently he got a lot of hate for it. And of course you're getting a lot of hate for it. You've just gone and smashed Michael Jordan. I don't agree with how he acted, but the point of the matter is that there's a reason why he won back-to-back-to-back, and then came back and won back-to-back-to-back, because of this mental attitude. And obviously controversy sells. So, like I said, it's not the media's fault. It's not necessarily Sam Smith's fault. He's still a wanker for going out and posting that and doing that. But it's not necessarily his fault, because arguably, I don't know if it was his rise, but I'd assume that it was his rise on a personal level, where he had to put someone else down to big himself up. And I guess it worked for him. So, you know, congratulations on that, but you're still a wanker. In the 93 season, obviously, they went for their back-to-back-to-back championship. They just won the double, they've just done the back-to-back, but now they're moving into the back-to-back-to-back. And they're playing the Knicks. Now, it's funny looking at the Knicks of then compared to the Knicks of now. I told you that Chicago now was really average, was pretty terrible. Well, the Knicks are on another level. Back then, they had some insane players, and Knicks and Chicago was starting to create a severe rivalry. But what I noticed, the Knicks were trying to be like Chicago from the previous years, where Chicago were trying to beat Detroit. Detroit were the team that they needed to beat to get to that next level. That was their rivals. They were the best at the time. The Knicks were trying to be like Chicago to Detroit, where the Knicks were Chicago, Chicago was Detroit. But the Knicks were somewhat playing in an aggressive style as Detroit. So they were wanting to be like Chicago in that perspective, but be like Detroit in that perspective. But the problem was that Chicago was still Chicago. So they're still the greatest team. You know, they were a little bit of a different perspective. Well, I guess looking back now, it's different. Chicago were a different ball game. They were a whole new big pond to small pond. And I'm not saying that Detroit was small pond material. They were a fantastic team. However, Chicago, when you're winning back-to-back-to-back, break back-to-back-to-back, it's a different ball game right there. What I want to say as well in regards to his teammates is that despite the fact that Sam Smith had brought this book out and how all his teammates hated him and whatnot, the point of the matter is that when adversity came and when he was getting blamed and he was getting slaughtered in the media, his teammates rallied, they backed him, and obviously they got over the line in the end. They won that series 4-2. Going down 2-0, winning 4-2 is incredible. And that shows that despite the fact behind the scenes it might not have been fantastic, they were still able to push through, defend the leader in Michael Jordan, and win the series convincingly too. Now look, the Phoenix Suns, Charles Barkley in that final series, I think they should have won that. I really think they should have won that. They didn't, obviously, and it is what it is, but I really think they should have won that. Based on the fact, I think it was Game 6, it was the one where the Bulls ended up winning. Why was Michael Jordan, they were up by 4 with I think 40 seconds left. Why was Michael Jordan given a free roam to the basket? He just went straight through. He was given the ball and just ran the court and just put it in easily. And then still had like 33 seconds left on the clock where they defend the Phoenix Suns, get the ball back, and then obviously Paxson hits the winning shot, the winning 3 to win the series. And it's like, that would have not happened. And I don't think the Bulls win if it goes to Game 7 in Phoenix. Why was Jordan given free roam at the basket? It wasn't about the fact that he outclassed anyone. It was really confusing to me, really confusing to me, because I've obviously never seen that game before. Interesting. It was an interesting decision. And they kind of looked around like, what happened there? Because that cost them the game. The Paxson 3, fantastic, okay? It's just like when you think of the LeBron, Cleveland Cavaliers win against the Golden State Warriors. The Kyrie Irving 3, fantastic, but the block by LeBron was the key crucial winner, in my personal opinion. But that Paxson shot, the dagger. The dagger, simple as that. However, Michael Jordan running that 2 in to get that easy shot, easy 2 points, bring it within 2, with over 33 seconds left or whatnot. That's the winner right there. And I just don't understand how a finals team like the Phoenix Suns on home court is allowing that. It was also great to see Barkley admit that until then he didn't think there was a better basketball player than he was, and until then he thought that he was the best, and he thinks that he played the best. He thinks that he played the best he possibly could, and arguably his stats show. But Jordan was obviously better. Jordan obviously bested him. Just before we finish up, I will say this. Chicago was real disrespectful. It was real disrespectful to act as if they'd already won the series going into their hometown game in Chicago against the Suns. And I guess that's what gave the Suns extra motivation to win. Probably a little bit of advice for the future for anyone who thinks about doing this. Probably would wait until you win, because I believe that Chicago gave Phoenix Suns the extra motivation. Obviously they had a huge amount of motivation to win, but they gave them the extra motivation to prove everyone wrong. The Chicago fans at that time could have actually been a real critical reason as to why the Phoenix Suns came back and won that series. So advice to everyone in future, until you've won, don't act like you've won. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up to know that you're enjoying this content. There is still episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10 to come of this, so definitely subscribe if you want to see more reactions. We are doing plenty of documentary reactions and sporting movies and TV shows and whatnot reactions. I do really appreciate your support as always, but that is going to do it for today guys. Thanks for watching, catch you later.